If you're watching this video, you probably have a question or concern about your waterproofing system. Instead of calling us, please watch this entire video. This might be able to answer your questions. And if for some reason your questions are not answered in this video, feel free to give us a call and we'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Here at Basement Systems of New York, we've installed over 14,000 waterproofing systems over the history of our company. Most of those waterproofing systems have a sump pump in order to keep the basement dry. Here you can see one of our standard Zoller sump pumps. The way that this pump works is the water levels will rise up and raise this flow. When this flow gets to a certain height, this right here will trigger and turn the pump on. When the water is getting evacuated, it's going to be lower in the basin, so the flow is going to sink and it is going to shut the pump off. This process will be repeated until the water level is lower than the point that the pump will turn on. At that point, you will no longer hear your pumps functioning. If you have a dual pump system, you have two levels of pumps. It is possible for both pumps to be running at the same time if you have a really heavy rainstorm and elevated water levels. Because the pumps are working in the basin on their own and you don't have to touch them, sometimes people have questioned, is my pump working or not? The first thing you need to do is check, is your pump plugged in? I know this sounds silly, but you couldn't believe the amount of people who call us saying that they don't know if their pump is working for us to drive out to their house and plug their sump pump in. The second thing you need to do, check your breaker. Sometimes as the pumps get a little bit older and the rainstorms are heavier, they're working harder and harder and harder. As a result, they can pull a little bit more amperage and sometimes trip the breaker. Or somebody has something plugged into the breaker because it's not a dedicated outlet like we suggest, and as a result, the amperage is too much for the breaker and the breaker trips. If you've checked the pump is plugged in, the breaker is working, and no water is coming into your ice guard, is my system still working? Great question. Most likely. We have water watch alarms that are built into every single sump pump system. And if you have the annual service, we check the battery load on those to make sure they're still functioning. If you don't hear your water watch alarm, your pump is plugged in, your breaker is not tripped, and you've checked your ice guard, no water is coming out. All that means is the water is not high enough in your sump pump in order to turn your sump pump on. Even if there's a crazy rain outside, what you have to realize is once you've installed this waterproofing system, we've now controlled the false water table around your home and evacuated thousands and thousands of gallons of water. So some people might think my pump used to go off all the time, now it's not going off as often. That's 100% fine. That means we've successfully managed to control the false water table underneath your home. Most people don't spend a ton of time in their basements. As a result, when they go downstairs for a heavy rainstorm, they might notice a leak that's coming from something else. A lot of times we get those phone calls because it's raining outside and people got water on their basement. Completely understandable. So let's walk through a couple of things to check before you give us that phone call, and you can probably save that service fee. So first thing you need to do, is your water watch alarm going off? If it's not going off, then you know that your system is functioning. So what happens is the water watch alarm and your sump basin are at the lowest point. Water has to go from low to high. As a result, if you see water on your floor and you don't have water around your basin and your water watch alarm is not going off, that means your system is working and you have water coming from somewhere else. There can be drippy pipes, a leak in your wall, water softener doing a regeneration that has a leak in it, condensation from an AC line, something like that. But if you don't have water coming up through your sump lid and your water watch alarm is not going off, there is a 99.99% chance that your water is coming from somewhere else and not your waterproofing system. The last thing you need to think about after you've done that whole checklist of things is what has changed? Nothing. You've already went down your checklist that we went through in the beginning of the video, and you know your pumps are running. If your pumps are running, that means your system's functioning. So as a result, start looking at all other places for where the water comes in, because that right there is the same exact checklist that our team is going to do when we come out to your home. If we come out to your house and we find that you have a leak from a plumbing line or something that's not under your warranty of the waterproofing system, you're going to be getting a service charge for us to be out there. When we install a waterproofing system for you, you're making an investment in your home to keep your basement dry. In order to help protect that investment the best way, we have an annual service program where our service technician comes out, services your sump pump, inspects them, makes sure that everything is running correctly. So If you have a lot of concerns over your waterproofing system or you want that extra peace of mind, we can come out there, provide a yearly service for you, and be proactive with your service. If we hear that your pump might not be functioning 100% right, it's sucking up the water a little bit slower than it normally does, or you're having any issues with your discharge line or anything like that, we can address them proactively rather than waiting till you need your system to work. Thanks for watching this video and following along. If you still have questions or you're not 100% sure if your system is functioning the right way, please give us a call. We can set you up with a service appointment or possibly walk you through over the phone something that you need to look forward to in order to make sure your system is working.